since you mentioned the hurricane bit, and there are people who really do believe what we would say are conspiracy theories. Someone was asking this. What do you think about Russell Brand and why his kind of jump into very conspiratorial religious
Hmm.
beliefs? Is he trying to walk away from more scandalous allegations, or is it because he's a genuine believer? I will expand that to say when it comes to celebrities who kind of take those, who kind of jump into the evangelical or conspiratorial fray, do you think how many of them genuinely mean it and how many of them just see it as the next grift?
Yeah. So I try not to judge people's hearts because I don't know, but I will say I just did I co-host the New Evangelicals Friday recap, and we just did an episode on Russell Brand last week talking about this thing. Um, I am very wary of people who have very harmful real allegations against them who suddenly get a conversion, because there's only one group of people that will accept harmful men, and that is evangelicalism, right-wing evangelicalism. Like it's one thing that honestly bothers me the most now that I'm on this side out of it. Conservative Christian nationalists, they will look at people like you and me and say that we are harmful, that we are satanic, that we are leading people astray because our political ideologies don't line up with theirs. Despite us having zero allegations and we're actually trying to be kind and like make the world a better place, like because we don't have the same beliefs, we're the enemy. And then you have someone like Russell Brand who has assault allegations against him. He is welcomed with open arms because he suddenly had a change of heart and believes all those same ideologies. Like, to me, that those are red flags. And you see that all the time. Like, even I don't know if you remember a Christian comedian, John Christ.
I remember.
Okay.
And
Like
I've seen that he's right back doing whatever he was doing before he got accused of anything.
right. Like but it's interesting, before he got accused, he was actually not really that right wing. Like, he kind of poked fun at Trump supporters, and he seemed, at least at the time, a little more progressive.
And tell
Then
me
you
if I'm wrong, when he's a stand-up comedian, but part of the, I mean, and he's playing that church circuit as
mhm.
well, but part of being successful as a comedian on the church circuit, and I think Taylor Tomlinson has pointed this out too, is yeah, you're willing to make fun of your own people because they enjoy that. And he was very good at that.
Yeah, yeah. But then as soon as the allegations came up, he disappears for, I don't know.
12 minutes.
Yeah, it wasn't very long, but he was gone for a while. He went to rehab. And then he popped back up at Turning Point USA in like 2022, like, which is like
Yeah.
Charlie Kirk and like super, super right wing stuff. And so it really bothers me that, well, and like you're more likely to be sexually abused in a church at this point than you are in anything queer related, despite that being the the reputation that the church says. And so it really bothers me that and I think it just shows too such a lack of respect for victims and survivors to re-platform these people, especially like in Russell Brand. There's an active allegation, and I would just always be wary of someone who is making money off of their conversion.
Yeah, that's fair. And by the way, it's a weird thing for Christians and atheists to have in common, but we've seen that in the atheist world as well. That when people get accused and they disappear for a few minutes and then they pop
Mhm.
back up, and it's always at some right wing sort of MAGA thing. Because even though they can't be welcomed into the church fold, they can be welcomed back into the like right wing manosphere sort of fold where all allegations are fake allegations, and whatever any woman said about you was obviously overblown.
Right.
Um, what have the reactions been like to the book so far from various types of people, whether it's your family, whether it's
Mhm.
Christians, people who might be atheists? What have you heard so far? Because the book hasn't been out that long yet.
Yeah, it's been just over a week. I've gotten really good feedback. It's been really encouraging, actually, because you have a little bit of imposter syndrome when I've lived with this text, just me and Beecher for this whole time. Um, so far, it's hit exactly how I wanted to. I've heard from someone who said that she had listened to it with her more conservative Christian parents, with the audiobook on a road trip, and that it opened up a really good conversation, and that both of them felt like that they thought it was powerful and that they wanted to revisit some of those things. And then, I had someone else who has been conservative Christian their entire life, who's older, who's a boomer, and who said that, messaged me and said, like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't realize how much nationalism was in my faith, and now I see it everywhere." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that's Christian nationalism. That's Christian nationalism." And so it's doing the thing I want on that side, where people can start recognizing harmful nationalism within their own belief system. And then on the other side, I've heard from, either people who had deconverted and still have family in that side, or people who aren't really religious at all, but have, maybe some loved ones who are, that they have a better understanding of why people are so right wing, why they believe the things that they do, and why it's so connected to their beliefs and their faith. And they feel like they have better tools now to be able to engage in that conversation. And hopefully, like, little by little, we can start just changing minds to just to be kinder and to be more inclusive, and to stop taking rights away from other people.
Well, I'm so glad you're hearing that. The book is very, very good. Star-Spangled Jesus here. And I think I could say this to you, whether it's just the content you make on social media or the book. I've encouraged anyone who listens to any of my stuff. A lot of people have very similar stories. And no matter what platform you have to discuss it, it's going to reach people, and you may be surprised by who you reach and how they react to the stuff, because someone like Richard Dawkins may be super off-putting to a lot of people, and yet when the same message comes from someone like you regarding Christian nationalism or something like that, it hits differently. And I mean that in the best possible way. This may be the most annoying question you ever get, because like you said, you spent 2 years working on this book. It's only been out a week. So what's next after this? Do you think about writing something else? Is there more trauma to mine? Or do you go back to making videos? What are you doing now?
Yeah, right now I am just, promoting my book still, making content. What's next? I have no idea. I think I have a little
That's the way to
PTSD.
do it.
Yeah, I have a little PTSD from writing this book. Like, there were so many days where I was like, I hate writing. um, but yeah, I mean, one of the chapters that got cut, actually, because I went over my word count, was more focused on purity culture and gender roles in the church, which I touch on in the book, but I don't go into depth. And as I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but my spouse, another big part of my deconstruction, is non-binary and has dealt with gender dysphoria and I had known about it since we were dating, but we didn't know what that was. We thought it was a demon. I literally have laid hands on them and tried to cast out the demon at one point, because the church, that's literally what the church told us. And
Honeymoon is wild.
it was it was wild. So, like, that's a story in and of itself that maybe we'll share
I think all that
someday.
purity culture stuff, though, especially coming from someone like you who is steeped in it and learned about it and has that experience, that would be invaluable for a lot of people to hear about what you make of it now, especially with all the stories, kiss dating goodbye and all the
Oh my
stuff
gosh,
that's
I
come from
know.
there.
That stuff just ruined me.
I can only imagine. I've heard some stories from people who grew up with it and got out of it and push back against it now, which is encouraging to hear. So the more people talking about it, the better. So thank you so much for your time today. That's April Ajoy. Her book is Star-Spangled Jesus, Leaving Christian Nationalism and Finding a True Faith. The links to April's social media and her book are below this video if you are watching this on YouTube right now, or it'll be in the show notes for the podcast, whatever works for you. Thank you so much for your time and for all the work you do. I so admire what you do, and I really enjoyed reading the book.
Thank you. And I am a big admirer of your work as well. So I'm always about team shared values over shared beliefs.
Right on. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone listening. See you later.